Hey guys, I'm Ubiru and welcome back to World of Warships. Today we'll be looking at the Tier 8 American Battleship, the North Carolina. Now the North Carolina is the 6th available battleship down the American tier line, and it was recently released in the 0.3.1 update. So there are some interesting differences really between the North Carolina and its previous tier, the Tier 7 Colorado, mainly about the armour and how it manoeuvres. Usually with the previous tiers, the Tier 7 and below American battleships, they turn very quickly, they have a lot of armour, they go to a very poor top speed, they have quite good guns, but from here on in, from Tier 8 to Tier 9 to Tier 10, they have slightly less armour, better guns, a lot better anti-air capability. They do, however, have a worse turning circle radius. So I'll show you the Colorado. This is the Colorado, the Tier 7. I haven't done a review of this ship just yet, but you can see just how different the Colorado looks to the North Carolina. So this is the Colorado, and this is the Tier 8. So the Tier 8 is a lot longer, lower profile, it looks more modern, as you can see with those very nice three-barreled turrets. So at the moment there is only two battleship lines in the game, the Japanese and the American, so the only ship really to compare this with is the Tier 8 Japanese Amagi. So this is the North Carolina, as you can see, quite low profile. It hasn't got a very big tower, but it is very visually appealing. In comparison to the Amagi is this ship here. So as you can see, the Amagi is a lower profile. The Amagi is very, very low to the water. About same sort of size. There are more guns on the Amagi, and the tower is bigger. So the Carolina is a bigger target in terms of the general hull, but the tower is smaller than the Amagi's. The Amagi is well known for its very low profile. That is a very hard target to hit from long distance. The North Carolina is slightly higher from the waterline. Okay, so let's look at the main stats of the North Carolina. So the first stat is survivability. And as you would expect of a high-tier battleship in this game, it has a very high score of 82 out of 100. We have up to 66,000 health. And against the Amagi Tier 8 Japanese battleship, the Amagi has 66,300 health. It has a score of 82, so that's the same. Now, the interesting thing here is the differences in armour with the North Carolina. It no longer states what armour it has, but I'm going from previous statistics that have been removed from the game at the moment. The North Carolina has between 1 and 305mm thick of armour versus the Amagi's 6 to 254mm of armour. So the North Carolina has a slight armour advantage, but the Amagi has a slight health advantage. In comparison, the North Carolina has slightly worse armour than the Colorado. However, the Colorado at Tier 7 has between 1 and 343mm. So in that respect, there is some changes. So there's not a lot of differences really between this ship and the Amagi in terms of survivability, but the Amagi is a smaller target, so it's harder to hit. The North Carolina has a slight advantage in terms of armour, but the Amagi has a slight advantage in terms of health. The next stat of the North Carolina is artillery firepower, and that's 68 out of 100, and these guns go to a maximum distance of 27 kilometers, which is one of the highest in the game. I think the highest in the game is either the Yamato or the Iowa or the Montana, but this is very, very close. 27 kilometers with the upgrade, with the credible upgrade, which I'll get to in a moment, is outstanding. This thing can fire way beyond the regular max distances of most guns in the game. So we have a 68 score on this versus the Amagi's 69. This ship has the advantage in terms of maximum distance. The caliber of the guns is very slightly worse. We have 3x3 406mm guns. So we have two turrets at the front with 3 guns each, 406mm, and we have one turret at the back with 3 guns as well. In terms of secondary armament, this ship has 10x2 127mm guns, which are very good at close proximity duels with cruisers and destroyers. In comparison to the Amagi has 5x2 410mm guns, so the guns are a slightly higher caliber, and there's 10 in total guns, so obviously 10 is slightly better than 9 on the North Carolina. The maximum distance of the Amagi's guns is only 19.9 kilometers, so the North Carolina has a big advantage in terms of maximum distance. In terms of rate of fire on the North Carolina, it's 2.0 rounds per minute, which is exactly the same as the Amagi. In this ship, the 180-degree turn time is only 45 seconds, versus the Amagi's around 45 as well. The dispersion is quite bad at nearly 300 meters. Maximum high explosive damage is 5,600, which isn't a massive amount with these caliber guns. The maximum damage with AP, however, is 13,100, which is a massive amount of potential damage. The next stat of the ship is anti-air capability, and with the North Carolina, along with most Tier 6 and above American ships in the game, it has a massive amount of anti-air capability. This ship has 79 out of 100. This ship is a fleet defender. It can shoot down planes very, very quickly. This ship can very easily clear the sky of enemy planes. So we have here a whole bunch of 20 and 40mm guns, and we have these dual purpose guns which act as both anti-ship and anti-plane guns. They're the 127mm guns which go to a maximum distance of 5 kilometers. So in comparison to the Amagi, the North Carolina has a massive advantage. The Amagi only has an anti-air capability of 51. The next stat is maneuverability, and with battleships you would expect them to have a quite sluggish maneuverability, especially the turning time with the latter tiered American battleships or the Japanese battleships. With this ship we have up to 28 knots maximum speed, which is quite fast for a battleship. We have a very quick turning circle radius of only 680 meters, which is quite surprising for a ship as long as this, and the rudder shift time is only 20.4 seconds. The maneuverability score is 40 versus the Amagi's 43. The Amagi has 30 knots maximum speed, a very sluggish, however, turning circle radius of 820 meters, so the North Carolina beats the Amagi in that respect, and an identical rudder shift time of 20.4 seconds. So there's not an awful lot between the two in terms of maneuverability. I would say this ship is far better just because it has a better turning circle radius and about the same sort of top speed. And the last stat of the North Carolina is concealment, and that's 30 out of 100. We have a surface detectability range of 15.7 kilometers and an air detectability range of 12.6 kilometers. That's against the Amagi's 20 overall score for concealment, so this ship has the advantage there. The Amagi is worse, only having 20 concealment score with a surface detectability range of 17.3 and an air detectability range of 13.7. In terms of overall statistics, this ship is about the same as the Amagi. It has a much better anti-air capability. It has about the same sort of survivability. It has slightly worse health, but it has much better armour. In terms of maximum range on guns, this thing is by far better than the Amagi, but it has that one less gun, so the score is reduced by that one, but it's kind of misleading. In my opinion, the firepower on this ship is far better than the Amagi's. In terms of maneuverability, it says the Amagi's better at having 43 and this ship has 40. That's only 2 knots difference in maximum speed, and this ship has the same rudder shift time as the Amagi and a much better turning circle radius. So there's not a lot of differences really between these two in terms of statistics. But I honestly think that this ship is a lot better than the Amagi just because its maximum range on guns is far better. Okay, so let's have a look at the modules and credible upgrades of the North Carolina. So I have peeled off all the upgrades of the ship. There is only 2. We have the hull upgrade and the gunfire control system upgrade. There is unfortunately no main battery upgrade or engine upgrade, but the gun's quite good. It has good damage potential, good rate of fire, and good turning time. And you don't really need an engine upgrade. The maximum speed is 28 knots, which is definitely fast enough for a battleship at this tier. So the first one I would choose of the 2 is this one here, which is the hull upgrade. We have an increase in health of 12,300 to a maximum health of 66,000, and an increase in anti-air capability. We have an extra 2 gun mounts, so it's plus 14 for survivability and plus 7 for anti-air capability. And the second choice is either go straight to the Iowa at tier 9 or go for the gunfire control system. You could just avoid the gunfire control system and go straight for the Iowa. I believe the gunfire control system does cost quite a lot of experience, and you already have that massive range. I chose this anyway, just to get those guns to a maximum distance of 27 kilometers. So this is plus 10% and plus 2.2 kilometers. Of course, it says here the maximum firing range is only 23.3, but that's disregarding the increased range mod, which I have here. So I have chosen some credible upgrades for the ship. The first one I've chosen is the main battery modification 1, which is minus 20% to chance of magazine detonation, minus 20% to chance of critical damage to main batteries, and minus 20% to main battery repair time. I've chosen this one to maintain the survivability of my guns. I've noticed a lot of people fire, because I only have 3 turrets, people fire high explosive at these turrets and knock them out, so I chose this mod to keep them alive as long as possible. And the second upgrade I've chosen is the Gunfire Control System Modification 1, which is plus 16 to main battery maximum firing range. Now with cruisers and destroyers in this game, this is an increase in accuracy, and with battleships, it's an increase in maximum range. So I chose this one to further increase my gun range to 27 kilometers. The third upgrade I've chosen is the Damage Control System Modification 1, which in my opinion is necessary for all battleships in the game. You have minus 3% chance of flooding and minus 5% chance of fire. Now this is primarily for the flooding aspect. You will be hit by torpedoes. You can utilize that amazing turning circle radius to negate some of that, but you will be hit by some torpedoes. And you will be set on fire, so this mod always comes in handy. The fourth upgrade I've chosen is the Steering Gear Modification 2, which is minus 20% to rudder shift time. So instead of 20.4, I have something like 15-second rudder shift time. The fifth one I've chosen is the Target Acquisition System Modification 1, which is plus 20% to maximum acquisition range. Now this is important in this ship, primarily because you have that massive maximum distance on guns. You need that further acquisition range to spot the target from further distance. So this is the North Carolina. It's very similar to the Amagi in a lot of respects, but in my opinion this is a better ship. The Amagi is a lower profile, yes. The ship has more armour, it has a much better anti-air capability, it has a much better turning circle radius, it has a better concealment, and it has that massive maximum range on guns to 27 kilometers. So the North Carolina is a fantastic ship. Let me show you guys some gameplay. Okay, this is the Tier 8 American battleship, the North Carolina, on North Standard Battle. So as you can see, the teams are quite evenly matched. We have a slight disadvantage in terms of battleships. They have an Iowa and more Tier 8s than we have, but we have the advantage in terms of having an Essex carrier versus their Shukaku. Of course, if the Essex chooses fighters, then we have a massive advantage against the enemy Shukaku. At the moment, the American carriers are quite overpowered over the Japanese equivalent just because of their fighter loadouts. But other than that, we have a handful of cruisers on each team. We have a Baltimore, they have New Orleans, Mogami, Atlanta. It seems quite even other than the battleships and the carriers. So I usually head towards the right side at the start of the map on this, usually the 1-2 line. But I'm not going to be as aggressive as most battleships are in this position. I'm going to utilize my amazing maximum distance on guns to 27 kilometers, get back to sort of B3 or so, just so I can utilize that maximum distance on guns. So there is a couple of enemies there. There's the New Mexico and the Iowa. The Iowa has a slightly better maximum range than this ship with the upgrade. As you can see there, the Amagi is 35 kilometers away, which is outstanding distance to spot in this game. So the Iowa is behind that rock with the New Mexico. The Iowa is a massive threat, so I'm leveling off now to get all my guns ready to fire at him. But it does seem to be quite cautious, the Iowa. Despite his massive amounts of armor, speed, maximum distance on guns, he seems to be playing very cautiously. So I'm going to fire a couple of spreads over this mountain. Maybe they'll curve around the mountain and get some effective shots on the Iowa. There is the New Mexico there as well with the Farragut. The Farragut is a silly target to shoot. Some shots going in. We got one hit there for no damage. So it did hit. It was a penetrating hit, but it did no damage. So the New Mexico is in front of us now. The New Mexico is one of the earlier American battleships. The New Mexico turns very quickly, but doesn't have a very good maximum range on guns and a very, very poor top speed. So I am not really leading these shots as far as I would with the Iowa or the Amagi or the Nagato. I'm just sort of leading them a lot closer to the ship. But of course, the earlier American battleships have the massive advantage in terms of avoiding the shots. Like, as you can see here, the New Mexico is just very slightly turning left, very slightly turning right, and avoiding my whole spread. I did mention that these guns have a dispersion of nearly 300 meters, which is very excessive for a battleship. So the Iowa is now peaking 17.1 kilometers away. I have all my turrets ready, firing all three of them now. Shots going in, but the Iowa can turn quite well, and all we need to do really is turn very slightly left, or for me to get very unlucky, and the shots will miss. So you've got 2 hits there for penetrating hits, but very little damage. Now with these 406mm guns, you would expect the guns to at least penetrate and do a substantial amount of damage, but with the Iowa, as you can see there, it hit them and did very minimal damage. I'm going to fire a salvo at this New Mexico. He is sort of dead in the water. Probably an easy target to shoot, but it's kind of hard to tell whether he's moving or not. Now there are some dive bombers overhead, but they're not targeting me. They have been buffed since 3.1, but the damage potential still isn't an awful lot. So the shots are going into the New Mexico, and we did a very minor amount of damage there for only 1,300. So the Iowa is very low, but he's turning at a very dodgy angle. So there are some enemy torpedo planes going overhead now. They're targeting a allied battleship as opposed to me. I'm targeting them anyway, just in case they decide to shoot me, because that does happen an awful lot in this ship because it's so long. The New Mexico does seem to be a bit dead in the water. The North Carolina is quite far away, but he's probably an easy target to hit at this distance. I know he's going at a standard speed, and the New Mexico is sort of dead in the water. So firing at the Carolina is probably the best option at 25 kilometers. So I'm firing at the Carolina, the shot's going in, but unfortunately I missed. The accuracy on these guns is quite bad at nearly 300 meters dispersion. The Iowa is very low at this point, along with the destroyer, but they are at very dodgy angles or at a distance where my accuracy won't be enough. I'm going to continue to try and fire at this New Mexico at 20 kilometers away. So I did hit the edge of the map. I'm going to slide slightly, but they're not targeting me, so I'm immune at this point. So shots are going into the New Mexico. I did miss. It is quite easy to miss with these guns. You need to have a perfect shot and some luck on your side to hit anything above 20 kilometers. Gun accuracy decreases after 10 kilometers anyway, but you have to sort of analyze your target. Look at the New Mexico here, he's sort of turning very sharply in his rudder shift time. It will have a delay to turn back, so I'm going to use this opportunity to fire a couple of salvos. He did take a torpedo hit there, but they do maneuver very quickly, so it's kind of hard to tell if you're going to get the hit or not. I did hit him there, but with no damage. I'm trying to get my back gun around at this point. I did hit the edge of the map, so I have to turn this whole thing around, and of course you have to wait 45 seconds for that to happen. So he has more torpedoes heading this way now. I think his engine's probably broken. I fired that salvo a bit preemptively. I did miss, unfortunately, but he has some torpedoes coming in, and now he's turning it at last second. New Mexico seems to be pretty much dead in the water. North Carolina is only 16 kilometers away, heading towards them slightly, mostly on my own. There are some allies just on my left, which can help if necessary. I'm not being targeted at the moment, so that's an advantage for me. So I'm firing a couple of salvos at the New Mexico again. He's very low, so I might get lucky at this distance, and who knows, I might get a kill. So I did hit him a couple of times there. I'm firing another salvo. We did get a critical hit and knocked out one of his guns, but not an awful lot of damage. I fired a second salvo there, and we got 4,200 damage, so that's not bad. We've got 2 front guns available again. Analyze where the New Mexico is going. Any of the new American battleships can turn at the last moment and avoid all your shots or torpedoes. So the North Carolina, I don't know where he's focusing, I don't know which target he's targeting, but it's not me. I'm still on full health, haven't taken a single hit all game, so I fired a couple of salvos at that North Carolina. I did miss him. New Mexico is 14 kilometers away, so I'm going to analyze the sort of speed he's going, fire a couple of salvos, and hopefully get a good shot. So I did miss the first salvo. I got 1 hit, but it was a non-damaging penetration. Some allies are firing at him as well. I think it's the battleship just behind me. 9,000 health left. I've got the 2 front guns available in 5 seconds. 3 seconds left. 9,000 health left. We did take some damage now, so they are focusing us down. Firing at the New Mexico. Front 2 guns. We critically damaged him again. He only has 3,800 health left. But now this is the worst opportunity to fire at New Mexico. New Mexico's turn very quickly left and right, and when they're pointed straight from your ship, they're almost an impossible target to hit. Now that I've seen him starting to turn, now's the perfect time to fire. So he only has 3,800 health left. Firing a full salvo at this point. 2 shots going in. 3,900 damage, only has 1,000 health left. Back guns fired as well, hopefully we get a kill. North Carolina is now firing on us, but he's the unupgraded North Carolina. You can see that by the health, only 53,000 versus our 66,000. In terms of the match, we are winning at this point by a 2-ship advantage. Most of our team are playing very defensively. We have a couple of ships on the far flank on the left, trying to take out an enemy battleship. But no enemies really seem to be within close distance of us. So there is a Cleveland here, only 13.2 kilometers away. I'm going to fire AP since it's already loaded, and there's no really point to firing high explosive when you already have AP loaded. So I'm firing a salvo at the Cleveland. The Cleveland hasn't got the best armor in the world, and you can take a substantial amount of damage if they hit. So they are going in now. We've got 8,000 damage and an extra 1,300 damage. So just short of 10,000 damage from those 2 shots. So not bad. He's only got 5,000 health left. My 2 guns will be ready in 10 seconds. Of course, when you play battleships, the play style is a lot slower than, for instance, a cruiser or a destroyer, just because of your very excessive reload times. So the New Mexico I was attacking a second ago is only 7,000 health left. He's 15 kilometers away, going to fire a couple of shots there. So I did fire that New Mexico. Shots are going in now. We got a Citadel hit and we finished him off. He only had a small amount of health left. We got the Citadel hit and we got a nice amount of damage and killed him. So we have another North Carolina in front of us and the Cleveland on the left. The Cleveland is very low, so he's only within 12 kilometers, so he is a prime target. I have my 2 front guns available in 4 seconds. My back gun is available, but he's sort of dwindling at the back. 4,000 health left, firing my 2 shots. I have to be careful of the incoming fire from the enemy North Carolina. The damage potential, even with the standard ship, is very high. So I did shoot him a couple of times there for 2,000 damage. Unfortunately, I did miss the other 2. He was straight on from me, so when you shoot at a target that's straight on, it's very hard to get a full hit. So he has been killed by the ally ship, and now we're about to fight against a North Carolina. So nothing really worse than a North Carolina on North Carolina fight. It can be very stressful, and you have to sort of anticipate where he's firing and use it strategically. You have to think of the gap between his firing and your firing. So I fired my salvo there, my 2 front guns. Now I'm going straight from him. So this is the perfect tactic, is to go straight on from the enemy ship, anticipate where the shot's coming in, and then move very slightly left and right to avoid as many as possible. You see there, I only got hit by 2 as opposed to his full payload of 9 shots. So now my guns are available in 1 second. I'm going to fire my salvo. He's only 8 kilometers away at this point. I have my 2 guns available at the front. They're firing now. We have about the same amount of health at this point. Shots going in. One Citadel hit for 13,000 damage, and now this is the point to line up again, go fully straight, so he has a disadvantage in firing at me. So I'm just trying to get this ship around as quick as possible. The turning circle radius is... It's not as bad as some battleships in the game, but it's not the best, but it's not the worst. So I did miss most of those shots. They seem to have hit the front of my hull and done very minimal damage. So I have the advantage here, going to fire my two front guns. They're ready to fire at any point. Going to line these shots up. He's turning now, so that's the advantage for me. Going to get some, hopefully, some good Citadel hits. Firing in, we got 2,000 damage. If this was pre 3.1, we would have got a Citadel hit there. It would have gone penetrated the water and done a massive amount of damage. There is a risk here if I line up to avoid his shots anymore. There's the risk of clashing together, and of course if you ram another ship of your displacement, irrespective of your health, you will die. So my two front guns are available in 6 seconds. We're both within distance of secondary armament. Two of my allies are firing at him as well. 2-second reload before my guns can finally finish him off. Come on! And there we are. So that was a very nice clash, a very good battleship on battleship brawl. We did have two enemy dive bombers go overhead and shoot us. That set us on fire, and of course we used our repair button to stop the fire. So I saw them go in that general direction. That leads me to believe that the enemy carrier is over there. So there are 3 enemy ships left: the battleship, a carrier, and a destroyer. Now the enemy battleship is on the far side of the map, having a nice brawl with my allied ships. And now he's been knocked out, so there's just 2 ships left: the enemy carrier and the enemy destroyer. Now the destroyer could be anywhere. It's kind of hard to tell where he is at this point. So there are 2 torpedo bombers coming to us now, and they're going around us to get a side hit on us, so I'm trying to anticipate where he's going. He's very close at this point. I've targeted one of them with my anti-air capability, which is very good in this ship. If I can get some lucky hits with, there we are, there's one plane. So they're very close at this point, nearly 1 kilometer away, and that's practically nothing. They're about to use their alternative firing mode, which of course is the hold down the Alt key, and they can fire very, very close. There they are. Torpedoes are coming in from every angle, decreasing speed, turning very sharply left to avoid as many as possible. I did repair. They've taken out my engine. I got hit by at least 3 at that point, 4. So they knocked out my gun, they knocked out my engine. If I didn't repair just before they came in, I would have died. So there's the destroyer, and there is the carrier. So my engine's broken. I don't have repair for another 15 seconds, but of course they're going back out. So at the moment, I'm safe. The enemy carrier, the Shikaku, is renowned for having many, many squadrons with few amounts of planes. So I'm firing a couple of shots here with AP. At this point, I'm just mostly focusing about the health of my ship as opposed to the ammunition type. So I would usually be firing high explosive at this target. He's going very, very fast. I'm trying to get a good angle to fire at him, but unfortunately it's unsuccessful. My 2 front guns aren't available for 3 seconds and 10 seconds respectively, so I won't be able to fire at him before he gets around this rock. The destroyer's there as well, but he's very, very low. At this point I shot the gun. I went a bit too far forward. I went outside the cap circle to try and get a arcing shot onto this guy to finish him off to hopefully help the team, but unfortunately he went out of range and behind that rock, so I didn't get around that rock quick enough to finish him off. Now this guy behind me is capping, so irrespective of me leaving the cap, we'll still win as long as this guy is not hit. So at this point I'm going to head back to the cap to help cap and finish off the game. Now this carrier is well out of my range at this point, well behind that massive, massive rock. The only person that really can take out the Shikaku at this point is the allied Minikaze. So it's been a fantastic game. You've seen some really interesting brawls in this ship. This ship is a fantastic brawling ship. It might not have as much armor as the previous tier, the Tier 7 Colorado, but it is a great brawling ship. It's quite low profile, it has fantastic guns, it has a lot of secondary armament. It's the whole package really. This is one of the best battleships in the game at the moment, in my opinion. I think this ship is better than the Imagi. The Imagi is a formidable ship, very, very low profile, has one more gun, has higher caliber guns, but it turns very, very slowly. I think this has the advantage in terms of overall statistics and performance. So I can't recommend this ship enough. The North Carolina is a fantastic ship. So it's been a great game. In this game, we got 219,000 credits, 2,400 experience, 120 free experience, 40 hits, 7 planes shot down, 2 critically damaged, 2 destroyed, 2 Citadel hits, and of course we captured the base at the end. So in terms of team experience, we came 4th top, but only a small amount. It's only like 120 in it. And in terms of damage, we got nearly 70,000 damage just with main battery armor piercing shells and 1,000 with secondary armament. So it's been a good game. Yeah, so this has been the North Carolina, the Tier 8 American battleship. Now I really enjoyed the 3.1 update with all the addition of new ships, especially the American Battleship tier line. The North Carolina, the Iowa and the Montana are 3 of the best ships in the game at the moment. From Tier 7 and below, the American battleships, in my opinion, are not nearly as good as the other factions' equivalent. Yes, the American battleships from tier 7 and below have better armour, better turning circle radius, but they do move very, very slowly. This is the best of both worlds. The North Carolina, it goes to a good top speed, it turns very quickly, amazing armament, good health, good concealment. It's a fantastic ship and I recommend it highly. So I'm looking forward to the next tier, which is the Iowa, the tier 9 American battleship. I am maybe more than halfway there, so that'll be fun when I get to it. I will put up a video in the next few weeks when I get there. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.